Cases rising rapidly. But guess what's not stopping? Rallies, speeches, and public events in poll-bound states. In spite of an exponential rise in the Covid-19 cases in the country, the poll-bound states don't seem to be in any mood to postpone the scheduled election. State elections are due to be held in February and March in Punjab, Uttarakhand, Goa, and the critical state of Uttar Pradesh, which with a population the size of Brazil's. But what could this potentially mean based on our previous experience with assembly elections and COVID? Is it a recipe for disaster? We explain. Worries have surfaced that the daily numbers could increase further as massive poll rallies don't seem to stop. Election rallies, which will soon be followed by poll campaigning, are going on with all top party leaders included. Look at these visuals. These show the frenzied crowd. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal was also seen at a rally where the participants were seen without masks. 2 days later, he also tested positive. SP Chief Akhilesh Yadav's Unnao rally, Union Home Minister Amit Shah's roadshow in Hardoi, and Priyanka Gandhi's Women's March drew massive crowds. Point to note is that the Election Commission of India does not intend to postpone the elections either. The Allahabad High Court has already appealed to the Election Commission to delay polls and ban rallies due to the COVID-19 threat. In fact, former Chief Election Commissioner S.Y. Qureshi had even reportedly gone out to say that polls cannot be postponed. After all, polls were held in India and around the world even at the peak of COVID-19. At that time, very little was known about COVID-19. But today, we are more knowledgeable about the virus and there is no merit in postponing polls. All political parties in Uttar Pradesh, in fact, unanimously agreed that the assembly polls in the state should be conducted as per schedule while following coronavirus protocols. But the question that still remains is, have we not learned the lessons from the past? As the second COVID-19 wave brought with it possibly the worst, political parties were targeted for paying too much attention on campaigning instead of preparing the country for a second wave, as many specialists had warned. Dr. Vidya Sagar, head of the National COVID-19 Supermodel Committee, told India Ahead that comparison of COVID cases in all election states with non-election states last year showed that there was no difference in numbers.
And frankly speaking, there was no statistically significant difference between the states that went to elections and the states that did not go to elections.
But the data from the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare suggests otherwise. It shows how the number of COVID cases surged significantly in a fortnight from the polling days in all the states. Active cases in Kerala rose by 349% from 30,208 on 6th of April, the day of the single-phase assembly elections, to 1,35,910 on 21st of April. Tamil Nadu, which voted on the same day as its neighbour, saw a 229% jump over the same period to 84,361 cases. The spike of COVID cases was similar in Assam, Puducherry, and even West Bengal. Numbers in the rest of the country too, though, were increasing regardless of polls, with Maharashtra being the epicenter. However, what sets poll-bound states aside and keeps their numbers similar to the rest of the country was the low levels of testing. Government data shows that in poll-bound states like West Bengal and Assam, testing for COVID-19 had drastically fallen since January this year. In the first week of January 2021, from January 1 to January 7, West Bengal conducted 223,525 tests and the case positivity rate was 2.6%. Case positivity rate is the percentage of samples that test positive for a disease out of the samples that are total tested. In comparison to this, in the last week of March, that is March 26 to March 31, West Bengal's COVID-19 test figures fell to just 1,29,605. The case positivity rate, however, rose to 4.6%. In other words, while the state was testing fewer people, the percentage of samples testing positive almost doubled. Now that we know what being in a poll-bound state amid rising COVID cases was, let's look at the current situation and the vaccination status of the poll-bound states. 5 states go to polls this year: Goa, Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, Manipur and Punjab. Talking about their vaccination status, Goa is 96% fully vaccinated, Uttarakhand 80% fully vaccinated, Uttar Pradesh 50%, Punjab and Manipur both at 42%. Ahead of the upcoming assembly elections in 5 states, the Election Commission of India did conduct a meeting on January 4. In the meeting, a discussion was held to make changes to the existing COVID-19 guidelines for the poll-bound states. It is expected that the Commission may make the COVID-19 protocols more stringent during the upcoming elections. But looking at the situation on the ground, we can only hope the spread of the virus can be stopped. While partial curbs are being imposed, night curfews and weekend lockdowns are making a comeback, there seems to be no government-imposed curbs on election-related gatherings. Going by the existing advice from almost all health regulatory bodies against mass gatherings, the crowds at election campaigns is likely to fuel a further spread of the new variant.